Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Janet Yong, and in my channel I share about Feng Shui, Bazi, entrepreneurship as well as personal growth, especially in the areas of communication, success and motivation. And today's episode will be a continuation of the interview that we have with Mr. David Tan, who's the founder of Crescendo Services as well as a new carpentry designer service. In today's episode, following last week's episode where he shared about his challenges of starting something new, in today's episode he'll be sharing why passion is crucial in moving forward, whether you are new into your career or even after being 10 or 20 years in your career and you're deciding to make a switch, be it starting your own business or pursuing a different path in your career. And he will share it especially from the perspective of becoming an interior designer. So without further ado, let's move on to the next segment where we'll find out more about his thoughts, his tips and his experiences. Because you made a switch, took the brave step of starting a new business, so what advice would you give to someone who would like to make a change, either in their career or business, especially when, like you said, you have been in something for so long, likelihood they'll be in their 30s and 40s, they have family to feed, they have young children. What advice would you give them if they want to make a change?
I feel that we are talking about you doing something for about 20 years and you maybe 30, 40 years old, you want to switch to something else. I think you really have to think really hard. You have to figure out what makes you want to change after so long, you don't do something else. Try to do something you're passionate on. That's important to understand yourself better, that what you like, what you don't like, If there is something that you're not comfortable with for the last 20 years that you're doing, that you decided to switch, figure out, understand yourself better. Because we do a lot of interviews with people, I realize a lot of people, they don't know what they want. That's a big problem. They don't understand what they want. For example, we interview people who want to become interior designers. But when you ask them, why do you want to be an interior designer? Or they'll say they have passion. Let's just example, let's say you have passion in music. You play an instrument. You can play for maybe 10, 20 years. So if you say you have passion, how you show that you have passion? You have to understand really what you want. It will not be easy because you're doing something for so long. You want to switch to something else. You prepare to pick up from the scratch. Prepare to give up what you accumulate for so long, last so many years to do something else. Prepare to be like a newbie, Don't always think of the past or last time. To me, is that if your last time is so good, then you'll not switch. So prepare to give up everything, start over again. Everybody can make it as long as you preserve on, you don't have the commitment to do it. You push it through, and you work very hard for it. I'm sure it's possible. Believe in yourself, have a passion for it, and be committed. I think that's some of the key conditions that you should have when you want to do something else.
Thanks, David, for sharing. But like you mentioned, a lot of people, right, like even when they come for the interview to become an interior designer, you mentioned that they say they're passionate about interior design, but you actually question that. So what are the tips that you would give to someone, like even in your own case, from interior designer when you wanted to go into carpentry? What would like maybe 2 or 3 tips or questions that you ask yourself to ensure that this is really something that you want to do in the longer term, so that these tips or questions, people can use it as a guide when they're asking themselves, is this really what I want?
Really have to think, is this what you want for the next 20 years? You have to really think, figure out. You don't just say, let's try, and try not to have like a backup plan. Try to be committed. If this is what you want, you have to really do it. The question is that from an interior design and to do furniture, I guess first few questions is that you enjoy sourcing for furniture. You enjoy looking at furnitures, because you must have an interest in that. And although it's related, but it's a different ballgame. So prepare to be more hands-on.
David, you mentioned that sometimes people may feel that this is something they're very passionate about. Like you say, they come and interview and say they're passionate about interior design, but you will actually ask them some questions to see whether is it something that they really want, or you actually have questioned whether this is their passion. How do you determine that?
I think by asking a few questions, it's quite difficult to really understand that this person, he or she, really like to be an interior designer. If you can have someone to can ask, or even a company that can go through to try out for a while, or to hands-on, or to follow interior designer, maybe a few days, to understand the actual nature of how is it like to be an interior designer. Then that will give a better perspective of how is the job like. A lot of people think that to be an interior designer is, designer, glam. Wow, the name sounds good, huh? But there's a lot of hard work behind it. There's a lot of hands-on. There's a lot of site. There's a lot of communication, and you could face a lot of customers on this thing. Remember, there's a case that when we finished a house, after the owner's daughter see the house, she was quite motivated, and she told the mom, I want to be like them, to be an interior designer. So the mom called us and to tell us her daughter's intention. Then we will give some advice to roughly explain the nature of the job. It's just basically not just the finished product. Before the finished product, there's a process you've got to reach this. There's a lot of hard work. I think she decided to take out a course after that to be interior designer. The school, their internships is pretty good, because some of what you study might not be what you experience in the actual environment. Try it out. I'm sure if you write in or if you talk to someone that you know in the industry, I'm sure they're willing to share, listen to them, or follow them along for a few days to experience it. That will give a better judgment on how the job's like. To be a designer is not easy thing. It's not a job that starts on 9 to 6 kind of thing. You got to really like what you see. The whole place is interior design. Environment, your home is interior design. The shopping mall is interior. Everywhere you see is all interior. Ask yourself, as long as you stay at home, what do you like to see? Do you think it can be better? Or you go to shopping mall, what do you experience? These are some of the very genuine questions that you should be asking.
Thanks. So here we're actually talking about someone who's young. But if let's say you have already been working and you're in your 30s and 40s and you have actually family commitment as well as financial commitments. So if you want to switch out of a career, just like for instance in your case, when you want to start out a new business, how do you then balance the part on financial commitments that you have to your family or your existing employees while you are trying to do something new? Because I think that's a very difficult part to balance.
Yeah, I realize that a lot of people at especially 30s or 40s, they have this concern. We can understand that because family, children, expenses. But then if your objective is to make money, then it's quite difficult. But if this is what you want and the objective is to do something that you feel satisfied with, especially you see your house, I think most of them, especially 30s, 40s, maybe they go through a renovation for their own house once or twice. They can experience it, the real life experience, that how their interior designer assists them in doing their house. Do they really enjoy the journey? If you really like the journey, financially you have to be prepared. Maybe at least for a few months, you have to speak to your spouse or your family member very seriously that this is what you want and what's the plan. To me, my thing is always when you like something you do, you put in your effort, your commitment, money will come. But if your mindset is to pursue money, so you want to do something because of the money, I guess you will end up the same for the last 10 years.
Which is unhappy.
No direction. You want to switch again. All these things come back again. For us is that it's been so long, why we can go on for so long. And I guess there's also some reason for that. It's not easy. A lot of people just give it up. But sometimes at the end of the day, if this is what you want and you see a finished product and this house or even these things that you design or the furniture you design, you bring happiness to others, you bring joy to the family, you achieve something from an empty space or people who need help. You create something for them, for the better of their lifestyle. The satisfaction is very difficult to weigh based on money. Yeah. Of course, money will have to come because you can make a living, correct? But if this is the effort you put in, the commitment you put in, I'm sure you will see.
Thank you, David, for your time and your sharing about your passion, why you went from interior design to carpentry designer. And I believe that what you're sharing will inspire other people to pursue their dreams, even if they're in their 30s and 40s and have financial commitment as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.